All right, going live everywhere. We're gonna go TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Just checking to see, making sure everything is up and running. Yep, we're good. All right, what's up, everyone? Here, back with us again. Ryan from the NOSO Wrestling Podcast is back. Thank you, Ryan, for coming back on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Edgar. I'm ready to talk about WrestleMania 8, and I'm always glad to have you. Hopefully, we do better than our Intercontinental title Sporkle we did.
Yeah, we recently did a fun kind of challenge recently. Ryan was kind enough to invite me over to his show, and we tried to name every single Intercontinental Champion ever in under 10 minutes. It was really fun. The video is out now, I believe, right? For
Yeah.
that one? Okay. But today we're going to be going over WrestleMania 8, 1992. This was a double main event WrestleMania, how they called it. So it kind of felt like there was like two shows in one combined, right?
Yep. It definitely felt like a first half and a second half. An intermission. This is the first time that they had a non-bloated WrestleMania 2 in the golden era. Before they would have 14 match cards. This is like what, an 8 match card. So they had the 4 and the 4. And it was interesting how they separated it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah, it
just
was
think that this
interesting.
is the perfect feel of nostalgia of a WrestleMania. It's kind of why I picked it. You did Royal Rumble 92, and this kind of coincides with that as well. It's almost WrestleMania season, so it's perfect time to do a WrestleMania. And ultimately, it's kind of like my comfort food. I don't mind putting it on at any time of the year and just kind of hitting my nostalgia feels. So overall, I think it's a great WrestleMania, even though on paper, it doesn't really look like one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited to go over this with you. Especially if this is, this is your comfort zone when it comes to, WrestleManias. And also, it's a zone for me as well because, like you said, I recently did a 1992 Royal Rumble review. So when I rewatched this WrestleMania, it was like, oh shit, a lot of it basically is what happened from that 1992 onto this one. So if you guys, the 1992 Royal Rumble review is out now. If you guys are listening to this, I recommend going back, listening to the Rumble review that I did, and then coming back and listening to this one because it's all linked together here, right, Ryan?
For sure. My favorite part of this too is like it's the start of the new gen at the end of 92 and this is the back end of the golden era. So you see a lot of the new gen looks and vibes and then you have the kind of the golden era, highlights and the golden era relics and the it just kind of meshes the two and it really transitions to the new gen kind of after this pay-per-view really. And it's the last high mark for the golden era as well. So it's an interesting time in the WWF.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Ric Flair was the WWE champion at the time, and he was in one of the main events, not the very last match, because Hogan and Sid had that very last match. They were the real main event, and it's interesting to point out that they were in the Hoosier Dome or Hoosier. How do you pronounce that?
The Hoosier Dome.
There you go, in Indiana, right?
Oh yeah, Indiana. It was a daytime WrestleMania too, so it was outside. It was bright out. It was such a cool vibe.
Shout out to Craig Townend. Is wrestling on today or is just headlights? No, we're doing a review for WrestleMania 8, 1992. No wrestling is on today. We're just reliving this iconic WrestleMania 8, nostalgic WrestleMania 8. So, yeah, we have Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan on commentary, which is always great. Um, so yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing today, guys. Ryan, we're gonna get started with the first match. Anything else you want to add to hype up this show before we get into the wrestling part of things?
Before we get into the wrestling part of things here, I love the iconic Vince opening to open up the pay-per-view where he kind of runs down the double main event and really just Gorilla and Bobby setting the tone as would be the through line the whole night and they're quibbles and their back and their forth and their shenanigans all night would play into each and every match, and it would flow through WrestleMania the whole time. And ultimately, when Bobby calls Reba Franklin, Reba McEntire, Reba McEntire, and Tito Santana's sister, was just the start of Bobby the Brain Heenan's nonsense. Will you stop, Brain?
Shout out to King Joel, who's on the comments. Hi, mate. What's going on, King Joel? Thank you for being with us. Well, let's get into it, guys. 1992 WrestleMania 8. Damn, they changed my stuff, huh? I'm gonna have to edit this out. What the fuck? Okay, let's go.
All of his stuff looked good, so probably too good because it was probably snug, but he was different in everything that he did. He locked up different. He locked up snug.
Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Snug Wrestling. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
All right, welcome back again to Snug Wrestling. I am Edgar. I'm the host. The first match of WrestleMania 8 was Shawn Michaels versus El Matador. And this was an earlier time in Shawn Michaels' career, 1992, but it was still really odd to see Shawn Michaels in the opening match and not in the main event or not holding a championship. Was this during this time, Shawn Michaels, this was before his his major push, or was he still considered like one of the bigger stars during this time?
Well, this is the start of his push. In January, he had just broken away from Marty Jannetty on the barbershop, thrown him through the window. And I think a week before the Royal Rumble, that actually happened. So
that's true. I remember that. Yeah.
This is the absolute kickoff to his, heartbreak kid character, so to speak. And I think linking him up with Sherry was fucking awesome. Set the tone for his career. And he 2-3 months into his run here, he really fit like a glove coming out here. You felt the aura and the presence of him coming out, and the star power was gushing through the scene, through the screen. And I just felt that, the heartbreak kid of younger year here really lived up to the hype. And yeah, you could be surprised, but I like the journey, and this was definitely the start of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're right. That was one of the things that we covered in the 1992 Royal Rumble review. It was a week after the breakup with Marty Jannetty, where Shawn throws Jannetty through the glass window. Shawn Michaels had a great performance in the Royal Rumble. So yeah, it was looking like they were setting him up for, for this big major push, and sensational Sherry played a big part in that time. It was even she even did Shawn Michaels' theme song too, right?
Oh, yeah. With that raspy voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did, man. She was very pivotal to kind of get him going off the ground 100%. But yeah, they just fit like a glove. They didn't really last long. They would break up in 92, but she was very pivotal to kind of get him going. All right, this is Tito's 8th straight WrestleMania. Can you name the other two competitors that were in the first 8 WrestleManias? One's a competitor, and the other one is like a kind of non-wrestler.
Oh no, dude, I'm so bad at trivia stuff like that. I have no idea. I was gonna ask you about more about Tito Santana, aka El Matador, because he doesn't really get talked about a lot, and I wanted you to tell me a little bit more about him. But go ahead, and I'm gonna let you answer your own question.
All right, I'll answer my own question. So the answer obviously is Hulk. He's pretty much main evented all of them besides 4 leading into here, including tonight. And then the other one is Howard Finkel. So
Oh wow, okay.
actually,
I
Howard
had
Finkel
no
would make
idea.
it all the way up to the first 25 WrestleManias he would appear on.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So they didn't really explain this feud with Shawn Michaels and El Matador, if you can even call it a feud. What do you remember about the build-up and what was happening here? Because I mean, the people were loving El Matador. Obviously, Shawn was getting all the heat here.
Yeah, well, Tito is past his prime, right? He would make it to WrestleMania 9, even though he got like a bumped off the card. He was in the opening. He was the pre-show match or whatever. So it was like he was around and he was like kind of the gateway to the mid card. And now as Shawn Michaels entering the mid card, it was kind of Tito Santana's job to kind of establish him and make him look like he's up to par. Tito's been there, done that, Intercontinental Champion twice, 84, 85, all the way through 86. After 86, he would join a team with he would join with Strike Force with Rick Martel after Tom Zink and the Can-Ams split up, or Tom Zink went to WCW. He would kind of do that through the 80s, end of the 80s, and then he was just kind of like a jobber to the stars. And then they would kind of give him a new twist. They gave him the bullfighter gimmick, and that's kind of where we find him now. So always respected, always loved, underappreciated Tito Santana. He's a stud, Arriba. But before the WrestleMania and the pay-per-view era, he was much more pivotal to the card, right? He would main event the B shows when Vince Jr. would start get up and going, running 2 and 3 shows a night. He would lean on Tito to main event the house shows for like the B cities or whatnot. Historical feud with Greg the Hammer Valentine. Did a good job establishing Macho like he did with Shawn here early in Macho's career. Valuable WWE employee, WWE wrestler, however you want to look at him. He was really the gatekeeper to the mid card for sure. So Tito doesn't get his flowers. So he's just a rock star. But at this point of his career in 1992, he's definitely on the back nine.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Shawn Michaels ended up getting the win here over Tito Santana with the roll-up, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, Shawn Michaels grabbed the tights on this one, right, to get the win?
Of course. 10 minutes and 37 seconds. It was a safe but solid match. Bobby's first line when Shawn entered is he's ready to be the Intercontinental Champion, and he would go on to be the Intercontinental Champion, I believe October, the last Saturday night's main event of 1992. He would beat the Bulldog. So they did have a vision for Shawn, and he did fulfill that in 1992, but that all started here. Edgar, I went 2 3/4 stars. I gave star rating because I'm a mark. And secondly, Edgar, me and Justin did a countdown to all 403 WrestleMania matches last year, and we had this match at number 270. So you're going to get star ratings, and you're going to get where we had these matches on the countdown as we go.
Awesome. I love it. But yeah, that was the opening match for WrestleMania VIII, 1992. Anything else you want to add about this match, Ryan, before we move on to the next one?
Nope, just solid job by Tito to getting the young star to look ready.
All right, then we had a interview, the LOD, with manager, a very, very familiar face, Paul Ellering. Paul Ellering, a lot of people don't know that the current manager of the Final Testament, Karrion Kross and the AOP, Paul Ellering, was the manager for the LOD during this time in 1992. And it doesn't get talked about enough in current WWE programming. A lot of people are just wondering, who the fuck is this old guy, this old bald guy that's, he's a mute manager. He doesn't talk. He doesn't really do anything. Who the fuck is this guy? Well, he's a longtime manager in the WWE. He was managing Hawk and Animal, and he cut a great promo putting these guys over, the LOD, with the Fink, I believe, was running the interview. But the LOD, they got a huge pop. They cut an intense promo. And what do you remember about this? They mentioned the IRS. Were they just kind of putting the tag team division on notice, or what was the point of this interview?
Yeah, so they actually won the belts, or they were the holder of the belts earlier in January, and then they kind of went off the grid, and they had to switch it. I think the Natural Disasters or Money Inc. actually beat them at a house show. So they had to pivot, get the belts off the Warriors, and this was kind of like a reboot of the LOD. Let's bring in Ellering, kind of so he can keep the pulse on Hawk behind the scenes. Hawk was getting a little rough and rowdy around this time, and I guess Ellering was pitched to bring him in to add like a fresh coat of paint to to LOD, excuse me, but really ultimately to kind of keep his thumb on Hawk and see if he can kind of ground Hawk, because LOD has plenty of legs here. They're still fresh to the WWE audience, and yeah, their goal was to kind of, this was not advertised, by the way, Edgar. This was a legit surprise, and that pop was real, right? And I thought this was perfect timing. Second thing on the card, the Shawn match happen, let people get settled, and then let's surprise them with this Mean Gene Okerlund. First of all, I love the podium too, by the way. I love that look. It was a cool ambiance in front of a live crowd, everything. They ate it up, but their mission was to ultimately go get the tag belts back that they had just lost and held for most of 91 leading into 92. So it was effective, but it was was what it was. It wasn't as electric or really it kind of started dwindling after that massive pop, really. And It is kind of funny that we still have Ellering here, 32 years later? That's crazy.
It is crazy. And besides, him managing the LOD, do you know anything else about Paul Ellering? We mentioned that he's the current manager for the Final Testament, but besides those two factions, those two teams, did Paul Ellering manage anyone else, or maybe in other promotions other than the WWE or anything like that?
Well, I know inside of the WWE, he was brought back in 98, 99, kind of when Hawk was going through it again. And he ended up turning on Hawk and Animal in, do you remember Skull and 8 Ball, DOA, those guys?
Oh, yeah.
He would manage those guys for pretty much 99, 98, that time table. So I think 97, 98, 99, around there. So yeah, he in the late 90s Attitude Era, he was in the WWF, and he did manage Skull and 8 Ball DOA for a little bit. Well, historically, he's known for being the Road Warriors or LOD's manager, and now the Final Testament or AOP.
Nice, right on. So there's a little background on Paul Ellering, because not a lot of people know who he is or where he comes from. So I thought that was really cool to see, worth mentioning. Then we go backstage. We go backstage again to another interview. Jake the Snake Roberts was cutting a promo before his match versus The Undertaker, and they even showed a cool video package of Jake the Snake getting the best of Paul Bearer and Undertaker by trapping his hand on the casket, and we're off to the races. Jake the Snake Roberts versus The Undertaker. What do you remember most about this buildup between these two legends?
Well, yeah, you saw the casket spot, you saw the DDT to Paul Bearer, but this was pretty much, these guys came together mid 91 to kind of go against Savage and Liz. They at SummerSlam, the Nightmare Made in Heaven or whatever wedding, they kind of interrupted at the reception and put the snake in the middle of the reception and whatnot. And they kind of were a duo versus the Macho Man. Macho would go get reinstated, have the match with Jake at this Tuesday in Texas, and that would kind of lead Savage back into the WWE here in 1992. And I guess he would go on to defeat Jake, and then Jake kind of spiraled off with kind of blaming it on Taker or whatever. And Taker is just a freshly turned babyface here. Honestly, he's coming off the title win versus Hulk Hogan at Survivor Series, even though he lost it at this Tuesdays in Texas, and then it was held up till the 1992 Royal Rumble, which you went over earlier. So there's been quite the roller coaster ride for the Undertaker leading into this match, and this is a good spot for him against the established heel Jake, the veteran, who's out the door. Funny thing here is Jake is out the door and he's trying to get like a Pat Patterson-like role behind the scenes. I guess it was promised to him, but this is actually his last appearance, maybe outside of a European tour for the WWF, as he's on his way to WCW to take a bigger payday, since the kind of WWE gave him the rope-a-dope about kind of taking over for Patterson or whatnot, because they're going through some shit.
Try to get him to stay or something.
Yeah, well, I think Jake wanted that creative role where he was kind of dwindling down in his career, and he felt that he maybe earned it or whatnot. And I guess there was a back and forth, and I guess he didn't get what he wanted, so he took a payday at WCW, and he went on to face Sting for the rest of 92. So this is his last big performance or big match in the WWE at the time.
I always forget, but didn't The Undertaker debut in 1992?
No, 1990 at the Survivor Series.
Oh, okay, 1990. Okay, because I was gonna say, either way, this is barely a couple years after Undertaker's debut. He was fairly new still. That were still putting him over as, like, this they kept repeating this throughout the whole match. He's not human. He's not human. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, he's freshly turned babyface, so that non-human side they want you to get behind, kind of. Is how I looked at that.
yeah. So I thought that was really cool to see a young Undertaker going up against Jake the Snake Roberts, and you know, the Undertaker wasn't doing much selling, but it made sense because, like you said, freshly turned babyface, the crowd loved the Undertaker, and whenever Jake the Snake Roberts would hit that DDT, that was it. You were done. It doesn't matter who you were. But Undertaker got up from 2 DDTs during this match,
Crazy.
which got huge pops, huge crowd reactions. And like you said, Jake the Snake was on his way out. Jake the Snake did the job on his way out, putting over the young, newly faced Undertaker. Undertaker hit a tombstone outside of the ring after a great match. This match was so cool to me. And Undertaker got the pin 1, 2, 3. Now, I want to get your thoughts on the match, Ryan, but also I want to ask you, because I don't really remember. I haven't looked too much into this. What was the transition like when the Undertaker first debuted with Brother Love, Bruce Pritchard, and then going into switching managers to Paul Bear? Those 2 questions I have for you right there when it comes to this.
Yeah, so I think he would be Brother Love for not long, really, a few months. And I think Percy Pringle, who was Paul Bear, was Rick Rude's manager in Dallas before this. So, and I think he was trying to get in the WWE. And Paul Bear's shoot job was working at a funeral home. So they kind of put 2 and 2 together, had him dye his hair jet black, and they liked the vignettes. It worked out. They looked great together, and they kind of lasted all the way through the 90s. So I think Bruce wanted to get, or Pritchard or whatever, wanted to get off the road, or Vince wanted him just behind the scenes. And they pivoted to Paul Bear right away, and it kind of worked out for the better, in my opinion. Even though Brother Love is kind of awesome, but yeah, Paul Bear is such a better fit for Undertaker.
Yeah, so it was just like one of those things, like they just from one day to another, they didn't make like a storyline where the Undertaker turned on
kind of showed up,
Brother
kind
Love
of one of
and
those
then
things.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the match, Ryan?
I thought it was a good match. 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Jake did a good job of putting over the Undertaker. He did his job going out the door. I think he really liked the Undertaker, so he wanted that. He sensed that he was going to be the big star of the 90s, so he wanted to be kind of do his job of putting him over. But 2 tombstones in a row is kind of crazy. Or excuse me, 2 DDTs in a row and the Undertaker kicking out is kind of crazy in a way, if looking back on it, because Jake never really had anyone kick out of the DDT or really ever take a pinfall. So I thought it was a good match, a little slow at times, but that's the Undertaker character at this time. That's Jake the Snake at this time. So they fit the bill. Fun fact
was believable. It was believable, yeah.
Yeah, fun fact for you here, Edgar. This is the only match in the card that was the decision was via a finisher. So for a WrestleMania, that's kind of crazy.
Oh, snap. That is crazy. Are you sure about that? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go through it. You said last match we had to pull the tights in the schoolboy with Shawn Michaels, so we'll see. But yeah, I had this at 2.5 stars, and Justin and I had this number 229 on our WrestleMania countdowns. I thought this was a perfectly fine match. Good at points with a good story.
The star rating, is this out of 5 stars?
Yes, 5. Okay. 0 through 5 is the star rating. We don't go 17.5 stars.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed this match too, because it was Jake the Snake, and he was a great opponent for the Undertaker. The Undertaker was this, I want to say, mythical type character, this unstoppable force. But Jake the Snake was just Jake the Snake, so you could believe that Jake the Snake could probably take down the dead man, but that didn't happen. There was something else here that I wanted to point out to you that I'm gonna have to edit out because I totally went blank. Crazy. Anyways, let's move on because I don't. Oh, the WrestleMania streak. Was this Undertaker's first WrestleMania?
No, a second. He beat Jimmy Snuka the year before in like 3 minutes.
Gotcha. All right, moving on quick here. Piper, Roddy Piper versus Bret Hart. I really liked what how this whole thing played out, even before the Royal Rumble. The Mountie was involved in this feud that got started with Roddy Piper and Bret Hart. The Mountie actually defeated Bret Hart for the title the night before the Royal Rumble.
Yep.
Royal Rumble comes up. Piper defeats the Mountie. Piper becomes the Intercontinental Champion, and Bret Hart wants to get his title back. So right off the bat, I'm already loving this. And they were friends during this time, right? Piper and Bret, but they still had that competition. I want my title back, but they were basically, this was a babyface versus babyface match, right?
Yep, for the Intercontinental Champion. Childhood friends, or let's say Piper was friends with Stu, and he would stay with them. They played into that. So yeah, it was an added layer of a babyface friendship. So there's definitely that cool layer, but that layer would play out within this match, right? Because you have chaotic Piper, crazy Piper, who will do anything. And now that he finally has gold in the WWF, he wants to keep it, right? He's never had a championship, even though he has had this historical, legendary run in the WWF, but gold has never eluded him.
Who are you rooting for during this match?
Oh, Piper's top 10, bro. Come on, man. Piper's a top 5 favorite of mine, but at the time, of course, but you know, at the time I'm 7. I of course I like and respect Bret Hart, but Roddy Piper has always been my guy. But yeah, I figured Bret was kind of going to pull it off, though.
I think the people in the arena were in the same boat as you, because Piper got a bigger pop here than Bret Hart. And the match, like I said, I absolutely loved this even before it started. So I was a little biased about the match. But like you said, they started off as friends, but as the match progressed, that sportsmanship was thrown out of the window. Mm-hmm. It was every man for themselves, and Piper was going to do anything to keep the title, and he did. And even Bret was doing a little light cheating and stealing before that was even a thing during this match. So both guys wanted to win it, and wanted to win it badly. And there's no friends in wrestling when that bell rings, you know, let the better man win. And that whole story that they were telling in the ring to me was so like entertaining. It was just a great wrestling match overall. It got so chaotic and it got so intense that Roddy Piper ended up beating Bret Hart so bad. Bret Hart got some juice during this match, which I thought was kind of unexpected. I didn't think the match would go to those lengths, but it did. But that's what really stood out to me about this whole entire thing. What about you, Ryan? How were you feeling this match and the outcome?
All right, so first, I know we dwindled on how we got here, but we can't look past this 10 out of 10 Roddy Piper promo with Bret Hart leading into the match. The one slice of bologna playing into the family, just all time Piper. His mix of zany and serious is fantastic. He's at his peak here, in my opinion. I love Roddy. This is the reason why I love Roddy Piper, is that promo right there. How he can mix so many emotions and settle in and get you focused for what his role is within this match. And he does that. The match, 13 minutes and 51 seconds. You did a good job of kind of going over the baby face versus baby face element. I love the pace here. They settle in and have that nice, respectful back and forth the first part of the match here. But once they settle in, they ramp up. All-time performance by Bret here. Piper is known as a brawler and a street fighter throughout his whole career, and Bret is known as the excellent of execution, where everything's tight, everything's snug, right, Edgar? As you could tell, he really wears down an opponent, but he does a good job of keeping Piper grounded, but giving Piper enough hope and the fans enough hope of Piper that Piper is going to kind of out-brawl him and work to his strengths and kind of get to him, and where Piper and Bret does such a good job of kind of keeping Piper focused and down and doing his part of the job of being the excellent of execution and really kind of wearing him out, where Piper just wants to kind of rip his head off and beat him to a pulp and really just beat him down and get that 1, 2, 3. And really just slap that sleeper hold on, beat him down so he can slap the sleeper hold on and get there. You mentioned the juice. That was a nice touch of edginess to the babyface versus babyface dynamic. It made Brett feel a little bit more sympathetic, perhaps, where he wanted to earn the fans' respect, earn the fans' cheers or admirations leading into here, where Piper was kind of maybe getting a little heelish, like his true colors are. So I could see why they did that dynamic there. It really played into great. But ultimately, Piper's job is to beat him down and get a sleeper hold on him. And then they use that Gunther and Cody finish from Crown Jewel where he got that sleeper on him finally. Turnbuckle, flip around, pin to the mat. 1, 2, 3. Excellent match, Edgar. All-time blade job, all-time psychology, all-time babyface versus babyface match. I loved it, Edgar. 4.25 stars. Number 42 on the countdown. I could gush about this all day, but I was brief, Edgar. It was fantastic. All-time Intercontinental match, all-time Piper match, probably Piper's best singles match in the WWE. I'd have to think a little bit more about it. There's a lot of heaters in MSG, but from an actual finish standpoint, this is the first time Piper was really pinned on live TV like this. It was excellent. He does a great job getting Bret Hart ready for the New Gen era.
Yeah, and we saw that finish recently too with Cody and Kevin Owens, and it was also done by Bret Hart when he beat Austin.
Yes,
in
96 Survivor Series. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, just this match, like you said, was so fucking great. We saw Piper kind of losing his cool and he got really vicious during the match, but after the match, it was a nice little touch that Piper had, lifted up a bleeding Bret Hart and he admitted defeat. Piper was like, "You got me. You're the champion." And Piper himself put the title on Bret Hart after the match. A nice little sign of sportsmanship that got a nice reaction from the crowd.
Yeah, his job was to put over Bret from the start, and he does that. Right, Piper's on his way out. He knows that, and he loves the Hart family. They did a lot for him earlier on in his career, and his job was to put over Bret, and I'm sure he accepted it. Piper puts up a lot of fucking issues getting pinned to the mat, and he respected Bret Hart that much to give him that. Awesome match, fantastic finish. I adore this match, Edgar. It's awesome.
Yeah, me too. All right, you're getting higher up there with the star ratings. Let's see if we can.
4.25, buddy. That's an all-time match for me.
Not 5.
Not 5. I'm
Okay. All right. We saw Lex Luger. He didn't wrestle though. He did a interview from his home in Atlanta. And what can you tell us about this interview? This seemed like an introduction of Lex Luger in the WWE.
Look at that body, Monsoon. Look at him. He's ripped. He's jacked. He's unbelievable. So he just left WCW earlier in 92, and he is signed to the WWE, but he is signed under the WBF banner, which is the World Bodybuilding Federation, which Vince McMahon has a weird obsession with bodybuilders, but it was a cute way to kind of steal Lex Luger from WCW, why he had a non-compete, put him on TV under that BWF banner, and really use that star power of Lex Luger to hopefully get that off the ground. Now, I couldn't describe to you what the World Bodybuilding Federation is, besides a bunch of jacked guys getting tanned up and oiled up and posing. Not really for me, but I guess there's an audience, and Vince McMahon is that audience, and it was forced down our throat. But historically, I love how Lex is on this card. I love Heenan yucking him up and kind of weird vibes, but putting him over, and it's just so entertaining. Heenan at his best. Luger just calling Monsoon fat when no one gets over on Monsoon, really. So the brain loved that, and it was what it is, and it was kind of fun. So it was good.
Yeah, shout out to Mike Omega who's on the chat. He says, "What's up, everyone? What's up, Mike? I got an episode with Mike Omega coming out, I believe tomorrow. Survivor Series 96 is the one that we did a couple days ago. Fun stuff."
Nice.
All right, so the next match, I think this was a 8-man tag match, and it was just to promote the Family Feud
Yes.
because I think a couple of the wrestlers were going to be on Family Feud during this time, and they even had like the host of Family Feud be the ring announcer for this match, right?
Yeah, Ray Combs, the host at the time, and this is what he had to say. Ray says that the Mountie doesn't know the meaning of a lot of words. Does the work of Larry, Moe, and Curly. The Repo isn't Two-Face because if he was, he would he would wear the other one. He was an unwanted child because his parents were hoping for a boy. The Nasties are two men sharing one brain, and their success is wrapped by the world's luckiest. Heel chases off Ray, and they start the brawl to start the match. It's like it stayed long enough. It did its job, and the crowd yucked it up enough. It's memorable. It's fun, and it did a good job of kind of building the Family Feud.
You know what I thought was weird about this match was the Big Boss Man was on the babyface team. I'm like, I'm not
He's
used
been
to
a
seeing
baby face. So he's been a baby face since 1989 at this point. The $1 Million Man tried buying his contract from Slick. The Boss Man had it, and then he kind of turned babyface at WrestleMania VI against Hakeem when the Twin Towers exploded. So he's been a babyface for about 2 years now, and he's like an upper mid card. He's widely popular, and this is kind of his like golden watch. All these guys are like the golden watch mid-carders. Like, all right, let's get these guys on the card, especially Duggan and Bossman and Slaughter. And I guess Virgil too, right? So it's like, these are our guys. They did a good job filling the card, the babyface point of thing. And, it's a good, let's give them their moment and promote Family Feud.
Yeah, some of these matches, a couple of these matches kind of felt like just filler matches that just kind of got put together and just thrown in there. So with that being said, what was the star rating for this one?
Not very good. 1 star. It was pretty boring. It was kind of the end of the mid card golden era. It is what it is. Number 317 on the WrestleMania countdown from last year that Justin did at it is what it is.
Then this match was before the first main event of this double main event pay-per-view. Yeah, Mike Omega says Ray Taylor was severely underrated this time. His match in SummerSlam with the Mountie is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that in the jailhouse match with that was good stuff. That through line of SummerSlam 91 was awesome with the Mountie. Jailhouse match, man. That's good shit right there. You should have someone on do that one, Edgar. SummerSlam season. We're doing that one.
All right, I'm down. All right. Before the match, we had an interview with Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair. Ric Flair was a world champion, and this was right, like not that. How long was WrestleMania after Royal Rumble 92? Was it like what, a couple months maybe?
Yeah, so January 19th and then like April 2nd. So yeah, not like what, 2.5 months.
All right, so this was 2.5 months after Ric Flair won the WWE World Championship at the Royal Rumble 92. So not that far after that, and Mr. Perfect was his manager, valet, or was Mr. Perfect not an active wrestler during this time, or what was his role here with Ric Flair during this time?
There was like some weird like intelligence, but he was pretty much just I don't know, an equal to like a part of his team, a consultant. He was, I think he was a consultant. And him and Bobby. Well, the thing was, Bobby was put with Flair, but Bobby was like, I cannot go to the, I can't go hang with this guy night to night. He's wearing me down. Like, I'm an old man now. He all he does is drink. He's out of his mind. I cannot be his manager no more. So they took Bobby off the road. And they put Flair, who retired, well, not retired, but took a break after SummerSlam 91. And he was his executive consultant, I believe I think it came to me, was his role to be with Flair. But ultimately, yeah, he was replacing Heenan as his manager.
And Ric Flair was facing the Macho Man for this first main event. And how did Macho Man get involved, or how did he end up getting this title shot at WrestleMania versus Ric Flair?
So they had the press conference with Jack Tunney where they had Sid, Piper, Hogan, and Macho, and they were all the number one contenders to face Ric Flair for the WWE Championship in the main event, the first main event of WrestleMania. And Jack Tunney awards it to the Macho Man. It was really weird. So backstage, the whole time you think it's going to be Flair and Hogan, right? And I don't know if Hogan's going out the door. When Vince signed Sid in 91, he kind of promised him the WrestleMania main event. Maybe he felt that Sid was the future. Hogan's going out the door. Flair is on his last legs. So to go Flair versus Hogan, you have two guys heading on their last legs. And we need to, like I said the whole time, the new gen is coming up. The steroid trial is cooking up. And the Macho Man, who isn't really necessarily gassed to the gills right now, maybe kind of needs to hold the torch a little bit as the 1992 waters get a little muddy as the trial era. So the steroid era is kind of trials upon us, and Vince isn't kind of in hot water. A lot of bad PC. So let's kind of go and do a through line with Liz and Macho, who came together last year at WrestleMania, and let's kind of pay that off here and just go with that. And maybe perhaps they use the house shows drawing as an excuse to not go Flair Hogan. Flair Hogan is an all-time dream match. I wish they did it just from an optics standpoint, but with Hogan on his way out because of the steroid trial and really to try to go to Hollywood, Flair, not sure what his future is. They just pivoted, and Flair could have easily done the job to Hogan, right? But why? Maybe we can see why the main event was a clusterfuck from a finish too, right? But why do that to the dream match? Maybe we can go to it in the future or whatnot. But they use the house shows as not drawing as an excuse to kind of split up Flair versus Hogan and do the double main event. So that's kind of the rhyme and reason why we got to this match. But after the results, I'm not mad at them for going to it, honestly. It's an all-timer.
There was always I felt like going back and hearing people talk about it, there was always some weird conspiracy or something when it came to this whole title run, because since the Rumble, Ric Flair didn't get his spotlight. It was taken by Hogan and Sid. And then Flair gets put in this, double main event, quote unquote, but he's the world champion, but it's not the last match. He gets put in the middle of the card of this WrestleMania because the real main event is Hogan versus Sid. And then we'll get into it, but I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Ric Flair ends up losing the title to Macho Man at this WrestleMania. So he also had a really short title run.
Yeah, 2.5 months.
Yeah, 2.5 months title run. Really, really short. I don't know. Since he won the title, I kind of feel like Ric Flair got kind of screwed in a few ways, didn't he?
Yeah, well, with the screwy finish to close the double main event, they needed to have that peak moment. They needed to have the through line of WrestleMania VII into WrestleMania VIII. So I think the plan all along was to have Flair drop it after a short reign, if it's either to Hogan or Macho. But it made sense to kind of go with Macho here just because of the optics of it all that we just went over. Yeah. But I will say the perfect in Flair promo, 12 out of 10. If I'm going to give Piper 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10. The pinup photo, the optics of Liz, she was mine before she was yours. Macho played into it greatly. He's going to take her to Space Mountain one last time. He's going to give her a juicy kiss on her sweet lips or something. He was out of control, but he built the foundation of this grudge feud in a short time, really, because they gave him the press conference not even a month before it. So they microwaved this feud, but man, Flair made it so personal by saying she was mine before she was yours. But the ultimate goal is to have the WrestleMania VII through WrestleMania VIII through line. And Flair was the perfect contagonist towards that. And it's so good in such a short time as well, too, the build.
Yeah. Also, when Ric Flair won the title, was at the 92 Royal Rumble. Bobby Heenan was a big supporter of Ric Flair. And Bobby Heenan was also there when he lost the title, pissed off. Did you see it? He grabbed the tights. No, that's not right. And they replayed it back, and Bobby Heenan was just pacing back and forth. He couldn't believe it. So I thought that was really great. How great was Bobby Heenan after the match too?
Even before the match, his angst. Oh, we got him. It's a big match. You know, in all the other matches before this, whenever there was downtime, oh, Flair's getting ready. Perfect is calling me. He's telling me Flair's ready. Right. So it was just like, wow. He's just like, I love this dynamic of them three. It's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great match. If I went 4.25 on the IC match, I'm wait when I get there, you're gonna be surprised when I went to this one. I love that match, and I love this match even more. The story, and the emotion, the intensity, it lived up to the hype. Liz comes out mid-match, and the selling from Savage, the agents. See, Shane McMahon is an agent, Renee Goulet, the referees, they're all trying to hold Liz back, but Bobby's letting us know, oh, she's coming out to see the Nature Boy. Woo! Ric Flair, she's here to see Rich to take down Macho. They're going to go to Space Mountain and so on and so forth. It's unbelievable. The emotion of the match meets the intensity. It's great. 18 minutes and 2 seconds. That's all it had to be. Surprise roll-up. Jerk in the tights. They had multiple false finishes before it, but not like it was like a basement version of Steamboat Savage, but with more flair, no pun intended. That structure of a match, but with the emotions of Liz and Perfect and Flair. They're both 5 years old. Savage is 5 years older. Flair's older. So they have the hoopla to go in with that structure. It was still frantic. It was still earnest, but Flair's ultimate submission of this match was to get Macho into submission, and he took apart the ankle. Savage sold the ankle so goddamn well because Flair's finisher is the figgy four. He wanted to weaken the ankle so he can get him to tap out. We had a few great hope spots between it, but goddamn, the roll-up was perfect with the story because the story's not over. They continued to feud throughout 92, and it's awesome. 4.5 stars, number 16 on the WrestleMania countdown. I fucking love it. For a while, Edgar, I didn't love the finish. I thought it was a little weak. But with the story, the emotions, you get wrapped up into it. You get more. You think little bit more about it. You know that the feud's continuing. It bugs me less and less. But for this match, I think the finish hurts it a little bit. But I'm just a fucking dumb mark, right? What do I know? It plays into everything. It plays into the motion, the structure of the match, everything, and it plays into the future. So it's a 5-star performance, but a 4.5-star match. I loved it.
Yeah, and now knowing some of the stories that we heard or that we know about, the Macho Man and Elizabeth, you don't talk about Elizabeth like that,
No.
That's something you do not do. But Bobby Heenan and Ric Flair, man, they were so good in that. And there was also juice in this match. And that image of Ric Flair with the blood in his face and his hair, we still see it a lot nowadays in a lot
iconic.
of memes. Yeah. After the interview, he's all covered in blood and stuff. And yeah, that's fucking iconic, like you said. I don't know how else to explain this.
Yeah, it's a great match. Absolutely. If you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. The intensity, everything. But the afterwards, we were screwed. Classic Flair, unbelievable, perfect. It was an injustice. It was everything, but ultimately the through line of WrestleMania VII to WrestleMania VIII made an awesome two WrestleMania moments for Macho. Excuse me. It was just awesome. The injustice. He calls Liz a Jezebel afterwards, grabbing the trunks. Perfect, and him and Heenan are gonna regroup, and they're gonna beat Savage. But ultimately, he's gonna put a kiss on Liz's lips, her moist lips. Flair, unhinged Flair at his peak. Unbelievable night for Ric Flair. Unreal. I loved it. It's fantastic.
Great stuff. After this match, we saw the video package that you mentioned earlier that was part of the build-up for Macho Man versus Ric Flair, but also Hogan versus Sid. That press conference that they did to determine who's going to face Ric Flair for the title. That was also, they explained the feud with Sid versus Hogan, which we will get into later on. Brutus the Barber Beefcake was a big part of that feud too, right? With Hogan and Sid, obviously, because he was Hogan's best friend at the time. I guess now that I think about it, we'll save that video package for the second main event, and we'll get into the build up later on.
Yeah, so they took intermissions back in the day, and after the Flair match, there was an intermission, and during the intermission, that's when they played all that video packages stuff. But we'll touch upon that right before the main event. What was the first match back from the intermission? Was what, Tatanka in the model?
Yep, Rick Martel, another filler match. It felt like. Why was this on Mania? And honestly, I did not even see the finish to this match, dude. I was just like, what? I don't. Yeah. So, any thoughts about this match? Did I miss something here? And who won this one?
All right, so Tatanka wins 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Probably why you missed it. It's a fine match, but it's ultimately boring. The best part of this match is Gorilla Monsoon teasing Heenan the whole time about the Flair outcome, and just as like you couldn't keep it together, so on and so forth. So Heenan has been pestering Monsoon all night about Flair. Now it was time for Monsoon to pester Flair and Heenan about the results. So that was filled most of the match, but it was a fine match. Tatanka's debut. He would become a pivotal character and wrestler in the new gen era. So probably why they put him on the card. But the model is a veteran. This is his 6th WrestleMania in a row. He's a stud, really. He's underappreciated. Very similar to Tito Santana, to Shawn Michaels here, right? A veteran putting over a new guy that would carry the company in the new gen. But Tatanka it's a cool presentation, but it's a fine match. 1 star, boring. Number 305 on the countdown.
So I did miss something. This was his Tatanka's debut. I had no idea. I missed that part.
On pay-per-view. He had a few like Superstars Wrestling Challenge matches, but they want to put him on the big stage to kind of propel him to the 90s, really. But it is what, he's fine.
Right on. So that was the first match of the second half of this WrestleMania. Like, Ric Flair was the main event for the first half, and Sid and Hogan were the main event for the second half. So I kind of felt like I was watching 2 shows in one. At least that's how they presented it. The second match was the tag team champions, Ted DiBiase, IRS, Money Inc. versus the Natural Disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon. 2 big motherfuckers, dude. Every time I see these guys, I'm just not used to seeing 2 guys as big as them in the same tag team. I'm like, dude, these guys there's no way that these guys can be beaten. Like, these guys are fucking huge. It doesn't matter who you are. But Ted DiBiase, Money Inc., they learned that the hard way during this match, because after a while of getting their asses handed to left and right, up and down, all over the ring, I mean, the Money Inc., they kind of got their licks in here and there, but it was mostly Natural Disaster taking over this match. The tag team champions was Money Inc. during this time, and they said, we don't need this. Fuck this. We're leaving. And smart heelish move. I don't know why we don't see that more often, because if you lose the match, you get to keep the titles. The titles do not change hands, and that's what happened in this match. Natural Disasters, it looked like they were going to get the win. It looked like we were going to get new champions, but man, Ted DiBiase always knew how to get heat, and they just left and kept the titles.
8 minutes and 38. 8 minutes and 38 seconds. This match was brutal, Bob Evans. It was terrible. These 4 guys actually go rogue, and they ignore the time cue that they get. They're allotted, 4 or 5 minutes, and they just go long, and it makes the match even worse. The finish is horrible. Half star, number 382 on the WrestleMania countdown out of 403. This is the worst match of WrestleMania 8. This match stinks.
Wow, worse than the 8-man tag team, the Family Feud match?
Yeah, at least we got the Family Feud. This was more boring than that. This is
I see.
brutal because the Natural Disasters just turned face because they need a face team because the Road Warriors go a little off script and they're out of the WWF for a while, right? As they return tonight. So they take the Natural Disasters with Jimmy Hart and they turn him face, and then they stick Jimmy Hart with Money Inc. There's just nothing here. There's no crowd reaction. The crowd could give two shits, as did I. And I like Money Inc., even though they're pretty boring. Natural Disaster is fine. They look the part, but it's just not a great chemistry here. And nowadays, they should have just inserted, if it was nowadays, they would have inserted LOD and they would have had a three-way, and that would have been the pop, right? So that would have been a cooler moment and probably more effective, but this match just stunk.
So we mentioned Brutus the Barber Beefcake a little earlier ago, and he got interviewed during this WrestleMania. And pretty much all I heard from Brutus the Barber Beefcake is, I love Hulk Hogan. He's my best friend. Got. That's pretty much how the interview went with Brutus the Barber Beefcake. When it came to Hulk Hogan, was he just like, I mean, Brutus was over during the time, but he was mostly just known for Hogan's friend, right?
Oh, he was the number one Hulkamaniac, that's for sure. Well, Sid, there is a little structure there. Sid is the one that ended the barbershop, right? And that iconic moment with the baby powder and the freaking out, destroying the set. So Sid was malicious to Brutus, so I guess Brutus was there. But ultimately, Brutus was a proxy for a missing Hulk Hogan to add heat to the feud for Sid, for the most part. But also, Brutus has a smashed face from a parasailing accident, so he is on the no physicality list, right? So there's not much you can do. So it's not like he's the best promo in the world either. So to be a Hulk Hogan cock, it was kind of his role, and he did a good job of that.
We saw Owen Hart for a couple seconds.
1 minute and 14 seconds. See, so Money Inc. and Natural Disasters were supposed to have their time shaved, and these guys definitely had their time shaved. But I'm glad I'm glad this match did not get canceled, because Bulldog and the Berserker did get canceled, right? So that match was supposed to be on the card, and then it got canceled. But they threw Owen and Skinner out there. I'm like that. Steve Kern is like in the history in a WrestleMania. That's Skinner. And I like young Owen Hart out there doing flips. It was fun. For what it was fun. I went 3/4 of a star. It was only 1 minute and 14 seconds. Number 373 on the WrestleMania countdown.
Yeah, so when I first went into watching this, starting to watch this WrestleMania, it was about 2.5 hours long, a little bit over 2.5 hours. And I'm sitting there, we saw Flair versus Macho Man, and I'm thinking, okay, that was the first main event. We're gonna see the second main event right after that. Hogan versus Sid, because usually when they have double main events at WrestleMania, they have them back to back at the end. Yeah. And no, we got a few more matches before Hogan versus Sid, and I'm thinking, how the hell are they gonna cram more matches in 2.5 hours? And this is how they did it right here. Owen Hart versus Skinner. They went out there. They did their thing. It was in and out. Boom, bam. Let's get out. Let's go home. Basically, just like that. So now that you mentioned that a match got canceled, it makes sense now.
Yeah, a little. So it kind of a pinball off Money Inc. and them assholes doing the terrible finish and taking 9 minutes, really probably 13 minutes of time with entrances and exits. It's just a little selfish, but they're veterans and, they went rogue. But really, for Steve Kern to go out there and do 1 minute and 14 seconds in 2005, he would go on to in the WWE and be a road agent, like make the matches, do the time cues or whatever. So I wonder if Vince remembered that when he hired Steve Kern, that he did me a solid in 92. So let's hire him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. The main event, the second main event, the real main event of this WrestleMania 8 in 1992, Sid versus Hogan. And there is a lot of stuff going into this match, like the press conference. Sid was not happy that he wasn't selected to be the number one contender, right?
Yeah,
or he was like a little...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hogan screwed him at the Royal Rumble 92, right? He pulled him out of the ring after he eliminated him. So there's a lot of angst for a freshly turned heel Sid Justice.
They were a tag team at one point. They were friends at one point.
Yep.
And Sid walked out on Hogan during a tag team match and left Hogan hanging at, I believe it was a Saturday night's main event.
Yep, the first one on Fox. Yep.
And we're off to the races. But not only that, we have this former tag team, now bitter enemies. This was getting booked as Hogan's last match potentially, and Sid had a promo before the match, and he made promises. He promised that he was going to make sure that this is in fact Hogan's final match. And so you add that element to this match too, to make it more intense, more interesting, and it just got personal. They even did a little thing. Hogan did a little thing with Vince McMahon where he got a little teary-eyed and got a little emo. Vince asking Hogan the big question, is this your final match? Where Hogan said, well, I will know once I get into that ring. So tell me a little bit more about the build-up. Did people actually believe that this was going to be Hogan's last match?
Yeah, and it's crazy that they highlighted it, but they didn't like emphasize it the whole night, right? They just told you, but we didn't get a Hulk Hogan promo. What in WrestleMania history have we ever not gotten a Hulk Hogan promo? Maybe WrestleMania 1, where like pre-match promos weren't a thing, but every other WrestleMania, we got an iconic Hulk Hogan promo throughout the night leading into the match. We didn't get that tonight. All we did was get that retirement special that they did before WrestleMania, highlights of that. And we got a Sid promo where he calls Mean Gene a bald-headed little oaf. But pretty much the crux between Sid and Hogan goes all the way back to SummerSlam 91, where Sid was the special enforcer with the match made in hell, Hogan and the Warrior versus Slaughter, Adnan, and Iron Sheik. I forget it. Colonel Mustafa, as I pull his name out of my ass, in that triangle of terror. And so Warrior goes rogue and he gets fired. And then Sid and Hogan at the end of SummerSlam 91 have a pose off. And Hogan kind of passes the torch to Sid as the next up and coming star coming out of that. Sid would go on to have a parade of squash matches where we kind of saw the highlights of those in that highlight too that we saw earlier. And Sid looks like an absolute menace and a force to be reckoned with. He has an unbelievable fucking frame. He has intensity out of the ass. He looks like the next big thing for sure. And Hulk Hogan low-key betrays him at the Royal Rumble 92 and pulls him out of the ring. And Flair dumps him over the top and wins it after Sid eliminated Hogan. Crybaby Hogan gets a little mad and helps pull Sid out. And that pulls Sid. It's like, what the fuck, dude? I thought you kind of were a mentor to me or whatnot and setting me up for success. I'm the next big thing and you're supposed to kind of set me up. But just because I eliminated you from a competitive match. And so I get why Sid was justified here in his actions at Saturday night's main event, not taking the tag and walking away from him, and then turning heel on Brutus and with the barbershop and just really wanting to end Hulkamania because he ripped the WWF title and the opportunity of headlining WrestleMania as world champion away from him. So by taking that away from him, he's going to end Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania. He doesn't care if it's his last match. He's going to make sure it's his last match. If it's his retirement match or not, he's going to end him, pretty much was the crux of the feud here. So a little, not like super in depth, but you know, they definitely had some juice here, but honestly, all the intensity and the vigorosity and all the substance that should have been here was made by Sid, but it would soonly evaporate when the match started and it was kind of heatless. To be real, because there wasn't much substance. Hogan had a foot out the door, so to speak. They did a good job before the match attacking him with the physicality and whatnot, but Sid looked like the next. Okay, I keep saying it. Sid's the fucking man. Like all the aura, the vibes, the everything. You felt it leading into this night, into this match. All the video packages, the interviews when Harvey Whippleman introduced him, the camera, the pulsing of the music, how he would walk, the presentation, everything. This is why Sid is the man. But for a 12-minute and 28-second match, you can see why Sid never connected with for a long time, because he doesn't have the depth from an in-ring standpoint. He's ultimately kind of, a squash wrestler, right? Or really would have to have a lot of hoops and everything to have a withstand acceptable main event match. But yeah, the match kind of lacked from a heat standpoint. The crowd wanted it, but it was just more in pockets. They didn't withstand the heat. The finish was awful. It's bad. You can blame Papa Shango for, I guess he missed his cue to come out, but he ends up kicking out of the leg drop, which wasn't supposed to happen. The count out, like, it's just bad. They didn't really have much chemistry throughout the whole match. It's just unfortunate. It's just bad.
You mentioned Harvey Whippleman. I remember seeing Harvey Whippleman in '96 Survivor Series as a referee. 4 years before that, he was managing Sid in the main event of WrestleMania. How does that happen? What do you remember most about like Harvey Whippleman, if anything? What can you tell us about him?
All right, so Downtown Bruno, he's from Memphis. He worked Jimmy Hart's or Jerry the King Lawler's promotion, and he pretty much got a job because he's a good office guy. You need coffee, he go get it. You need copies made, he go get them. You need a delivery from the post office, he'll go get it. You need one of the boys need to get picked up from the airport, he'll go pick them up. So was he the referee of the Rock match at the '96 Survivor Series?
No. Which match was it?
Because if it was the Rock match, it would make sense, because at the time of '96, he's the one that he worked with the Rock in Memphis. He kind of showed him the ropes in Memphis when the Rock was kind of in developmental, quote unquote. So for Harvey to be the referee in the Rock match would kind of make sense from a structure standpoint to make sure the Rock was comfortable, because that was the Rock's debut.
It could have been.
I could be off though. I'm just guessing. I don't recall him being a referee.
He could have refereed multiple matches that night. I know he was for sure the referee of the first Survivor Series match of '96.
Was that the Rock debut, or was that Goldust and the King? And
that was Goldust and then
All right, was that the Rock debut though?
Wait. Goldust was in the Rock's debut with the King.
Yeah,
that
so
was
that
the
makes
second
sense.
match. That was the second match of the second traditional Survivor Series tag team match of '96. The first one was the New Rockers and the British Bulldog,
Philip LaFons and all that one. Yeah. I haven't watched that show in a minute, man.
Yeah, I know for sure Harvey Whippleman was the referee of that match because they kept calling him. They kept mentioning his name, which I thought was weird.
Yeah,
because I mean, before Vince McMahon left the WWE, they wouldn't mention the referees' names. Now they do.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. That name just always stood out to me. Harvey Whippleman. It's a very unique name. So
no, it's a WWF name. I get in Memphis, his name was Downtown Bruno, right?
Okay.
So yeah, like I said, he's just an office guy that it's likable. He's a go-getter. You need something. You need your shoes tied. He'll tie your shoes. You need the ring mopped. He'll mop the ring. Whatever you need, he'll go get it. And for the '96 Survivor Series, I was just guessing because I know that he was close to The Rock at the time, so it would make sense if he was the referee there. I don't recall him being the referee, but I'll take your word for it for sure.
Yeah.
But to this match with Hulk, I don't know. What did you think? Am I too hard on it? Because I do give it a decent star rating, but it's just disappointing as a main event.
No, yeah, it was very underwhelming. I mean, they worked the crowd good. The fans were getting behind Hogan, trying to encourage their hero, and Hogan fighting from underneath versus a much bigger Sid, and so it felt like they weren't really looking at each other as much as like the crowd. Like their attention was not even on each other as two competitors. Their attention was on the crowd, constantly looking at the crowd. Hogan and Sid, I'm like, dude, the match is happening in the ring, but it was more crowd work than actual wrestling. It felt like to me.
Maybe Hulk wanted to play into the crowd and not take so many bumps. Work, kind of like one of the let's rely on this hot crowd. That was hot, like I said, okay in pockets, but the match just stunk. Like I went 2.25 stars, Edgar. Like as a presentation, there was pockets of okayness. The finish is horrible. We had this at number 200 on the list. Like so, it's very memorable for the reason we'll kind of get into, but in a vacuum, the match is just disappointing for what it is because it's the main event of WrestleMania, coming off of two excellent all-time matches before it, right? And this match is disappointing.
Yeah, and the Warrior came out at the end, right? And I think that big reaction that the fans gave the Warrior when he came out for the save kind of made the people forget how bad this match was, I think. Because they were loving seeing Warrior and Hogan standing tall side to side in the middle of that ring. Was this just done by random, or was there some type of I don't know, I guess like connection or some type of friendship that the Hogan and the Warrior had during this time?
Well, going back to 91 SummerSlam, like we talked about a few times tonight, actually, with the Mountie and then again with Sid and Hogan. So the rumor is that Warrior kind of held up Vince for more money or bonuses or whatever. He wanted more money for this match or in general. And I guess Vince fired him on his way back. Warrior dropped the belt earlier in 91. So his checks probably weren't as big, I would assume. So he wanted more money that he was kind of getting in 1990, but I don't know. So there was a disagreement and they fired him. I don't know. I don't recall the full story, but that's what happened. So it was a firing and, with Hulk going out the door, the Sid's now a heel. Shawn's not ready. Brett's not ready at that level. What are we going to do? Macho's a little old, right? So what are we going to do? We invested so much of the late 80s to the Ultimate Warrior. To fire him at SummerSlam, we need to kind of play into that more now. He's been off for 6 or 7 months. Let's see where his head's at. Let's see if we can start doing the right business. Let's see if we can, cash in on the Ultimate Warrior chips that we've built up. And it's a good idea with Hogan leaving and whatnot. He gets a massive reaction. He looks like $1 million, a little shorter hair or whatever. Yeah. And ultimately, this is like a better passing of the torch than at WrestleMania VI. WrestleMania VI, the crowd split between Hulk and Warrior. Half the crowd's disappointed that Hulk lost. Half the crowd rejects Warrior because Hulk's lost. That probably had a lot to do why Warrior wasn't as effective in 1990. Now Warrior's back on a surprise. He gets an endorsement from Hulk. He helps Hulk. He has a made feud with Sid Justice. Warrior's our top guy. Let's go with him. Hopefully he's been off the road. He's rested. He's ready to go. Let's cash in those main event chips that we've built up with the Ultimate Warrior. I get why they did it. And it should have worked. But coming out, Sid gets fired or he quits, whatever. So they pivot to Papa Shango. It gets cartoonish. And then they do the Mega Maniacs with Warrior and Savage. It's fun, but it's just not what it could be or should be. He has some good stuff. And then at the end of 92, he gets popped with the Bulldog for steroids in the midst of a steroid trial. So they have to fire him again because he fails a steroid test or whatever. And Vince under the hot lamp because the steroid trial is impending. He's getting bad press left and right for it. And he makes an example of the Warrior again and fires him. So coulda, woulda, shoulda. There's some good stuff from the Warrior in 92, but it's not what it could and should have been. But Hulk does a good job of setting the table here and passing the torch. Honestly, better than he does 2 years previous when he let Warrior pin him in the main event.
Mm-hmm. A couple more things that I wanted to cover real quick. We saw Sid Justice win 4 years after that, won the WWE World Championship from Shawn Michaels. At that time, Sid was really over. Obviously, in this 1992 WrestleMania, he was the heel, so he wasn't getting a whole lot of crowd reactions. A couple questions really quick about that, Ryan. Did Sid ever win the championship during that time before 96, or was that his first championship? And when did people started realizing like, holy shit, we like this fucking guy Sid. This guy, he's the man.
Now, his first title win was Survivor Series 96. And when you watch that show, you already reviewed it, Walter. It's coming out soon. Excuse me, Edgar. It's coming out soon. And you could feel that crowd. They wanted him over Shawn. That MSG crowd is a bunch of marks like myself. That Northeast crowd is just, Sid is so he's so charismatic. His aura, as we felt here, it's just awesome. And who's the man, the fist pumps, the music, the capturing him on the way to the ring. He's a star, dude. But Shawn Michaels does a better job than Hulk Hogan to make to make him look like an acceptable wrestler.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just a better matchup.
Big difference.
Hulk should be, but it just didn't click.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That was WrestleMania VIII, 1992. Thank you, Ryan, for picking that one, man. I had so much fun watching it and reviewing it with you, like always. Did we do a star rating for? Oh yeah, we did. We did star rating for Sid versus Hogan. Okay.
I was a little hard on it, but my expectations were high.
Yeah. Absolutely, dude.
Now, can I ask you one question about WrestleMania 8? Do you feel that it was a miss not to do Hulk versus Flair?
Hulk versus Flair. No, I don't think so, man. Because the match with Flair and Macho was one hell of a match, and I don't think Flair versus Hogan would have matched up to it or would have been
not this
as
Hulk
good.
Hogan, not where the Hulk was out the door 2 feet. He pretty much had both feet out the door.
Okay.
So maybe he would have been more excited and brought more ferocity versus Ric Flair, but at the time, man,
I don't know too much about that. I forgot who I was talking to about that. They were really upset that they did not do that match. They were like, man, they fucking dropped the ball. They should have done it. They missed their opportunity. Because I think Hogan, after that, like shortly after that, he went to WCW, right? No.
Yeah, so he's in WCW by the summer of 94. And then his first match is Ric Flair because the draw of, well, it should have happened 2 years ago. Why didn't they do it? We'll come here and let's do it here. So I get why they did it. But to put yourself in the shoes, to put your shoes in 1992, it is a little bit of a missed opportunity just from a marquee standpoint. It's a dream match for sure. It's the two biggest stars of the 80s. It's the WWF guy, Hulk Hogan, versus the NWA WCW guy, Ric Flair. And we can do that on WrestleMania on the biggest stage. Who's the real world champion? As they've both been, the champions throughout. It was just that there's no way that Flair's beating Hogan and Hogan's going out the door. Do we really want to put over Hogan on his way out the door? Or do we want to put over Macho to be a bridge for Brett, right? Pretty much, right? So I don't know. It was maybe bad timing, but I don't know. I think they should have done it at WrestleMania 9, had Flair hold on. That was the time to do it because Flair was leaving anyways. And that would have been much better than the Money Inc. bullshit we got at WrestleMania 9. But WrestleMania 9 is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, it just goes on the list of all the matches that we should have got that we never did. Lesnar versus Austin, Sting versus Taker,
versus Hogan,
Austin versus Hogan, and the list goes on and on and on. But yeah, no, I don't know too much about that. The thing with Hogan and Flair, but listening to like you talk about it and some of the other people, that a lot of people are really pissed off about that. That they just
it would have been a moment in time, but I don't think it would have been as good as the Macho Flair match that we got. All-time match to me. It's awesome, but it would have been bigger and cooler to do that and to have that in history would have been pretty cool because you can do Macho and Flair at SummerSlam. They pretty much do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what's up, Ryan. Anything else that you want to add about WrestleMania 8 before we get out of here?
No, man. If you haven't seen it in a while, go check it out. If you're a younger fan, you can just feel the vibe of 2 eras, the golden era closing and the new generation era starting. It's just a unique time in history. So much star powers, stars starting, careers ending. It's just awesome. It's like I said earlier, Edgar, it's my comfort food. It's good stuff. It's great stuff.
It was really good stuff. I learned a lot here today with you, Ryan. Like always, it's a pleasure. Anything you want to plug, your socials, your show, or anything you got coming up?
Yeah, you want to talk WrestleMania VIII, you hit me up at my IG. You'll hit it. You can put it in the thing over there. But honestly, hit up everything on the North-South Connection. That's pretty much where all I do my stuff. Subscribe to our YouTube. We have Edgar on once in a while to do like pay-per-view previews or, NOSO games or whatever. But we preview all the modern pay-per-views, matches, and then we do a post-game show after the pay-per-views. But we have Wrestling Warzone. We have Chronoso, which is this time period. I run that podcast with guys in and out giving their match reviews and whatnot. So we got everything on there on the NOSO for nostalgia in modern day. So check it out, guys.
Right on. My name is Edgar. I'm the host of Snug Wrestling Podcast. Thank you, everyone that was listening and that was on the comments, and we will talk soon. Later,
guys.